Okay, we are live here on the Horseshoe Huddle podcast, but we must let it breathe just for a minute here. And then we're going to fire off this episode. Welcome in. It is the Horseshoe Huddle podcast. I'm Chad Jensen, with me, co-host. You know him, you love him, Andrew Moore. Andrew, dude, how you feeling today, brother?
Feeling great, man. Week 4 in the NFL is upon us. There's a lot of good matchups this weekend, and we're going to dive into a really big AFC South matchup between the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. I think it's a really big matchup for both teams, and really excited to talk to you about it today, man. How are you doing?
Dude, so good. So good. Very, very just dialed in to what has been as always, a great NFL season thus far. But the Colts, you know what? Let's do a little 10,000-foot view real quick. The Colts had everybody a little bit worried going into last week, tie the first game, lose the second game. They're sitting there at 0-1-1 with the Chiefs on the schedule. Oh man, this is for sure 0-2-1. But no, the Colts upset the Chiefs, and now, hey, they're second place in the AFC South with the Jaguars at 2-1, at least for now, in first place, and the Titans at 1-2. Andrew, in the AFC South, the Texans 0-2-1. So first things first, before we get into some predictions for this game, before we get into some keys, how are you feeling about the state of the AFC South?
The AFC South as a whole has been surprising, and I think there's a lot to be desired with this division. I don't think really anybody expected the Jacksonville Jaguars to lead as we approach the quarter mark of the 2022 season, but that here we are. I think that the favorites are still probably the Colts and the Titans overall. Those are the teams that have proven to be the top two in the division for the past few years now. And again, it's a very long season, so I'm sure those standings are going to be shaken up quite a bit as we go through the upcoming weeks. But it's a challenge for the Colts and the Titans that this probably isn't going to be a runaway division for either one of them. It's going to be a dogfight all season long, and these division games are what makes it count. And the Colts are already off to a 1-1 start in the division. Not the best that they could have hoped for to start the year. So this is a very big game, having the Titans at home, and the Titans have kind of struggled a little bit this year. So the Colts, coming off of a big win against Kansas City, I think really need to capitalize on that and get their first division win under their belts.
So first things first, I want to get to some bold predictions, but going against a very familiar foe, but this time with a brand new, at least for the Colts, quarterback in Matt Ryan. What are your keys to victory for the Colts in week 4?
I think we got to start up front, and it's something that Colts fans have been talking about. It's what us in the media have been asking the coaches and the players about. It starts with that offensive line, and it starts with that protection that's given to Matt Ryan. The offensive line to open up holes so Jonathan Taylor can be the Jonathan Taylor that he was last year. The dynamic playmaker that can take it to the house on every single play. And I had an article come out this morning on horseshoehuddle.com about how Ryan Kelly is the X factor for this weekend's matchup. Ryan Kelly, the center, he hasn't necessarily been the biggest culprit of the protection issues, but he is the guy that leads that offensive line. He's the one that helps call out the protections with Matt Ryan to get the guys in the right spot. There were just too many free rushers against for the Colts coming at Matt Ryan last week against the Chiefs. That has to be better. And if it's not, this Titans defensive line has Pro Bowler Jeffrey Simmons, Bud Dupree, pass rusher who can wreck things on any play, Danico Autry, a former Colt that Indianapolis knows very well, and they'll be ready to take advantage of that and really dominate the Colts up front if the Colts aren't up to the challenge. So I think that's priority one, protection, and not only for the pass game, but also to get that running game going with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines.
Man, it seems like that's the key for this team in particular. You want this engine firing on all cylinders. Well, yeah, it goes without saying, I guess, that you got to protect the quarterback. But the best way to get in front of that, establish a ground game with the league's defending rushing champ. I mean, how important is it getting Jonathan Taylor going in this one?
I think it's huge because when Jonathan Taylor isn't going and the offensive line isn't creating those holes for him. And granted, Jonathan Taylor is a superstar. He's so good that a lot of times he can create his own holes. But at the same time, when teams are doubling up and making sure Jonathan Taylor doesn't beat them, it just makes things so much more difficult for this offense to get rolling when the defense knows that Matt Ryan and this Colts offensive line is what's going to have to beat them. They can dial up more exotic blitzes and really tee off on Matt Ryan, kind of what Kansas City tried to do last weekend. So getting Jonathan Taylor going just to alleviate some pressure off of Matt Ryan, I think it's huge. It also brings the play action game into things. And when you talk about a guy like Matt Ryan, who really thrives off play action, as far as he's one of the guys that does a very good ball fake, he gets the ball out quickly. That's a big part of his game. So when play action is available to the Colts, it just opens up multiple different avenues for this offense to go through.
So how concerned should Colts fans be right now that Taylor did not participate in practice? Or at least that he's banged up? Was it a toe? I want to say he's dealing with. What's your outlook for him this week as far as the injury bug's concerned?
I really don't have any concerns for Jonathan Taylor. He did practice today in full, so that's always a good sign. It seems like the Colts gave a lot of veterans the day off yesterday after a hard-fought battle against Kansas City. I think along with Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Gilmore, Yannick Ngakoue, and Ryan Kelly all sat out Wednesday's practice, all wore full today for the Colts. So really it's the two guys on the defensive side of the ball that didn't practice today were DeForest Buckner and Julian Blackmon. Buckner's dealing with an elbow injury. Blackmon rolled his ankle and has a sprain that he suffered against Kansas City. And then I guess the biggest question, rather, instead of Jonathan Taylor, it's Shaquille Leonard. When will Shaquille Leonard make his return back to the field? And the Colts defense, especially last week against the Chiefs, they played well. But there's no denying that this Colts team is just different. When Leonard is out there, he's the heart and soul of this defense, and he's what kind of drives the turnovers that the Colts are known for creating. So Leonard has been full. This is his fourth week. It looks like it's trending that he's going to be practicing in full. So we'll have to see. I know he's itching to get back out there. He was speaking to the media today saying how when he's ready to go, he's the first one that's going to say, I'm ready to go and I want to be out there. So I think that if all things considered and if it keeps trending in the right direction, we very well could see Shaq Leonard make his debut this Sunday.
It's pretty rare in the league, for what it's worth. All right. As someone who's covered this many, many years, to see a previously injured player be a full participant in Wednesday practice, full participant in Thursday practice, and then assuming he's going to be a full participant tomorrow, Andrew, not play in that game. So what would, if anything, I mean, if he ends up being a full participant, Shaq, tomorrow, what would hold him back? What would hold the coaches back? If he's fully participating, that tells me he's healthy. Why vacillate? Why not just bite the bullet?
And that's been a big question on a lot of Colts fans' minds recently, because he has been full for a couple weeks now, every single day. And Leonard kind of spoke to that today, saying, you know, I've been full in practice, but the first week after practice, I was very, very stiff. The second week, now I don't feel as stiff, but can I make a tackle? Then it's like, can I move how I want to from sideline to sideline? With back injuries, it's always so finicky, and each one is so crucial, I guess, to and so unique in how a player is going to react to it. And what we've been hearing out of the Colts organization is that Shaq and Frank Reich and his coaching staff just don't believe he is up to the level that he needs to be to go out there and play winning football. And with Zaire Franklin holding down the fort and still playing pretty well out there, the Colts are afforded some extra time to get Leonard back into the swing of things and back to where he feels comfortable enough that he can go out there and make a positive impact on this defense. If you've seen any of the Colts production videos, how he was reacting on the sidelines, being the biggest cheerleader for the Colts there on Sunday against the Chiefs, I mean, the man's dying to get out there. And as soon as he feels like he is able to go out there and help contribute to this defense, number 53 will be back out there in action.
Well, my only message to Shaq and my only message to the Colts training staff is, hey, don't let life pass you by. If he's healthy enough to practice, I know it's a back can be finicky. Backs, I should say, can be finicky and all that stuff, but this isn't just a game. This is a game in division. Like, if he's healthy enough to play, what is it? Little Toradol. All right, get out there and do your thing, Shaq. Go earn those dollar bills. But Andrew, bold predictions, if you have any, or even just predictions generally. What are you expecting? We can talk about keys. We can talk about the injury report. But what are you actually predicting to see between the Colts and the Titans?
I think my first bold prediction is I'm going to say Derrick Henry rushes for less than 100 yards against the Colts. The way this Colts defense has been playing, especially against the run, has been incredible. I mean, they're leading the league in yards per carry allowed at 2.5. They are third in the league in yards rushing per game allowed at 77. And when the Colts play the Titans, this is all we talk about, is how can the Colts slow down or contain Derrick Henry. And honestly, that's the best chance for the Colts to win on the defensive side of the ball, is make Ryan Tannehill try to beat you. A.J. Brown isn't on that sideline anymore. A.J. Brown's in Philly. So you're not going to have that type level threat. Instead, you're dealing with a Robert Woods or a rookie in Treylon Burks. Those guys are I wouldn't say they're easy to handle because they're professionals, but easier to handle, right, than an AJ Brown. So the focus is going to be on Derrick Henry. So I would say that's one of my bold predictions is King Henry does not rush for over 100 yards. I would say my next bold prediction, Alec Pierce gets his first touchdown in a Colts uniform. You saw the rookie come on last week against the Chiefs, and Matt Ryan is trusting him more and more. And we're going to see that as the season goes along, where the more these two play together, the more that Big Alec makes some plays, Matt Ryan's going to trust him in those situations. So the way that the Colts used him last week, coming off of the concussion, now he's got another week under his belt where he played well. I think we see Alec Pierce get his first touchdown of his career on Sunday.
Man, this is going to be fun because we've got Derrick Henry, who was the NFL rushing champ 2019, 2020, going against the reigning rushing champ, Jonathan Taylor. Man, it could be remember that song, Gangster's Paradise? This could be a Rusher's Paradise. We'll see. if you're into that, if you like that smash mouth brand of football. So what are you predicting specifically for Matty Ice? What version of Matt Ryan can Colts fans expect to see in a really stiff test in the Titans?
I think you don't need Matt Ryan to go out there and throw for 350 to 400 yards and 4 touchdowns for the Colts to win this game. I think the biggest thing for Matt Ryan is to kind of control the game and control the ball. When you have a Jonathan Taylor like that up front, you have options as far as where this offense can go. You don't necessarily need to light up the Texans secondary, especially when they have guys like Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker back there roaming the deep part of the field. So I think the biggest thing with Matt Ryan is I would be happy if he just wouldn't fumble this week. 7 fumbles in 3 games, not good. And he knows that. He knows that he needs to protect the football better. And I think if this Colts team can just play solid, mistake-free football on the offensive side of the ball, I think they're going to be just fine. So I think for numbers wise, I could see Matt Ryan throwing for about kind of what he did on last Sunday, 220 to 230 yards, about 2 touchdowns. And as long as he holds on to the ball, I think Colts fans are going to be very thrilled with that stat line for Matty Ice and the results that it can produce for the Indianapolis Colts.
He is on pace, Matt Ryan, for, believe it or not, about 4,400 yards almost. All right. But only, as far as being on pace, he's only on pace for 17 touchdowns. How wild would that be to see a Colts quarterback come in, pass for well north of 4,000 yards and only average 1 touchdown per game? That's the outlying nature of the early parts of the season, is you can't go hanging your hat on trends because it's so early. There's not enough,
right.
There's not enough sample size there to really draw any lasting conclusions. I wrote an article on horseshoehuddle.com over the summer, all right, saying, I don't think Matty Ice is done. People saying he's washed. I'm saying, no, people are sleeping on Matty Ice. And I think just like you're seeing in other places across the league, Denver's a good example where it's a big baller, veteran, former MVP quarterback, at least in Matt Ryan, suddenly being transplanted to a new NFL city. Even Peyton Manning in 2012, when he went from the Colts to the Broncos, guess what? It wasn't Super Bowls out of the gates. It was, I want to say they went 2-4 the first stretch of that 2012 season, Peyton's debut in Denver. And then everything kind of turned for him. I think even a lot of Colts fans might remember that historic Monday night game where the Broncos were down 21 points opening the third quarter on the road in San Diego, stormed back and won. And that was like the key that unlocked everything. And the Broncos, with Peyton, went on to win 11 straight, AFC 1 seed. So similar to what's going on now with the Colts, Matt Ryan, things starting off a little bit janky, not as ideal and perfectly consistent as you would maybe hope. But eventually, as he starts kind of settling in, Andrew, with these new weapons and the supporting cast and the scheme and the coaches, eventually there will be that catalyst that unlocks that next level. Then we're going to see, I think, the return of Matty Ice. I'm just not sure it's going to be this one because the Titans, man, they just always get their dander up for the Colts.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And for Colts fans, even recently, we saw this back in 2020 with Phillip Rivers. The Colts didn't necessarily light the world on fire within Rivers' first 4 to 5 games with the Colts, but it was around week 5, week 6 when it felt like Rivers and this team finally started to gel. It takes time in the NFL to number one, you're learning a new offense, new teammates, new building, new coaching staff. Everything is new for Matt Ryan. And yes, he's been doing this for now it's in his 15th season, but it's going to take some time. And that's why as these games go along, you see him get more comfortable with like Alec Pierce and Jelani Woods. We already see a connection that's formed between Ryan and Michael Pittman Jr., who is going to be another week removed from that quad injury. So we should see a fully healthy Michael Pittman on Sunday. It's just going to take some time. And that's why people that were expecting him to light the world on fire right out of the gate, I think they got a little bit ahead of themselves. But you will see him start to get more comfortable in this offense start to expand more. And I think as we get going here within the next couple weeks, this offense should start to hit their stride.
All right. We're going to dip on out of here. Before we do, what's your prediction, the end result? Give us a score, give us a winner for week 4.
I'm going with the Colts. I've just got a feeling that win against Kansas City really changed things. Yes, there's still protection issues. Yes, Matt Ryan wasn't at his best, but the Colts are at home. The Colts get fired up for Tennessee, and I think there's just a feeling about this team that and with Jim Irsay in particular, they're sick of being the little brother to the Tennessee Titans the past few years. I think it's going to be an old school ground and pound football game where we're going to see a lot of Derrick Henry, a lot of Jonathan Taylor, a lot of defensive plays. So I would say that the Colts are going to get the win, and I'm going to go 24-17. Colts get the victory.
Man, if I knew Shaq was playing, I would be right there with you. I'm going to err on the side of the home team as well. I'm going to take the Colts, but I think it's going to be a relative grind them out kind of game, like back and forth, 17-16 Colts, 21-20, something like that. It's going to be a relatively low-scoring game because both teams, man, they're still ironing out some kinks. They're still figuring some things out, but especially the Colts. And if they can get that ground game going, let's hope that toe on Taylor, man, that by the time you get to Sunday, everything's hunky-dory. But I'll agree with you. I think the Colts win a close one over the Titans. This Titans team so far this year, for whatever it's worth, they're just not quite as fierce as we've seen them in years past.
Yeah, and it could be a result of A.J. Brown going away. It could be a result of Ryan Tannehill not exactly playing up to what he normally does and his standards. And we haven't seen Derrick Henry really go off either. So, but it's still going to be a classic AFC South matchup. The two rushing kings going up against one another. It's going to be a fun one to watch on Sunday.
I'm Chad Jensen. This is the Horseshoe Huddle podcast. He's Andrew Moore, NFL. Follow him on Twitter at Andrew Moore, NFL, myself at Chad N. Jensen. We'll be back in the saddle reacting to what unfolds on Sunday. but it'll be Monday, same time. We'll look forward to seeing you guys then. For Andrew, I'm Chad. We'll see what happens with the Colts.